This is a story about a boy named Toshi and what's going on inside of his brain. Toshi, wake up! Let's take a look at exactly what's going on inside Toshi's brain when the teacher tells him to wake up. First, his ears receive the auditory signal in the form of sound waves. Next, the auditory signals are processed in the brain's language center, the Wernicke's area. The Wernicke's area is connected to the Broca's area, another of the brain's primary centers of language production, by a neural pathway called the arcuate fasciculus. The language information conveyed through the arcuate fasciculus is processed in the Broca's area. Finally, the words are fully processed and understood as the verbal command within the brain. Oh my god! Toshi's fallen asleep again. I think I'll play a little trick on him. Haha! He found the piece of paper on his back because he noticed it in the mirror as he turned to walk away. The visual information being relayed from Toshi's eyes to his brains is through the optic radiation. The optic radiation is a collection of axons connected to relay neurons located in the lateral geniculate nucleus of the thalamus. Optic radiation carries visual information along the calcarean fissure to the visual cortex. This allows us to see things. Now Toshi is off on his bike to another class. The corticospinal, or as it's sometimes called, the pyramidal tract, is a massive collection of axons that travel between the cerebral cortex of the brain and the spinal cord. When Toshi rides his bike, his corticospinal tract controls the muscles that coordinate his body's movements. The corticospinal tract mostly contains motor axons. It actually consists of two separate tracts in the spinal cord, the lateral corticospinal tract and the anterior corticospinal tract. An understanding of these two tracts leads to an understanding of why, for the most part, one side of the body is controlled by the opposite side of the brain. Also, the corticobulbar tract is thought to be a pyramidal tract. The corticobulbar tract carries signals that control motor neurons located in the cranial nerve brain nuclei rather than neurons located in the spinal cord. The neurons of the pyramidal tracts are pyramidal neurons. When the pyramidal tract passes the medulla, it forms a dense bundle of nerve fibers that are shaped somewhat like a pyramid. Watch out for the ball! Wow, that was close. Did you see how Toshi started to panic when the ball almost hit him? The panic reaction is relative to the cingulum fiber. The cingulum is a collection of white matter fibers projecting from the cingulate gyrus to the entorhinal cortex of the brain. It allows for communication between the components of the limbic system. The limbic system is a set of brain structures that includes the hippocampus, amygdala, anterior thalamic nuclei, and the limbic cortex. It supports a variety of functions including emotion, behavior, and long-term memory. Look, Toshi's riding on the grass. That looks like it's really difficult. I hope he doesn't fall off his bike. In order to avoid having an accident, Toshi needs to be more careful when riding his bike down a narrow pathway such as on the grass. This type of coordinated balancing is related to the inferior occipitofrontal fasciculus. What we see here is the inferior occipitofrontal fasciculus. It begins just behind the frontal lobe and moves along the lateral border of the caudate nucleus and onto the mesial aspect of the corona radiatia. Then, its fibers fan out and pass through the occipital and temporal lobes lateral to the posterior and inferior cornu. The brain signal for this type of coordinated balancing movement passes along this fiber network. Thank God Toshi made it to class on time. What? There's a pop quiz today? Oh no! The stria terminalis is another structure of the human brain. It is a band of fibers that run along the lateral margin of the ventricular surface of the thalamus. Serving as a major output pathway for the amygdala, the stria terminalis runs from its corticomedial division to the ventral medial nucleus of the hypothalamus. The stria terminalis covers the thiolastrimate vein, marking a line of separation between the thalamus and the caudate nucleus as viewed from the superior aspect. The stria terminalis extends from the region of the intraventicular foramen to the temporal horn of the lateral ventricle, carrying fibers from the amygdala to the septal nuclei, hypothalamus, and thalamic areas of the brain. It also carries fibers projecting from these areas back to the amygdala and is responsible for anxiety and stress responses which might be triggered by, for example, an unexpected pop quiz. The stria terminalis also appears to be involved in gender identification. What's the topic for today's class, you ask? It's the corpus callosum, of course. Today I'll be talking about one of the most important parts of the brain. You already know that the brain is made up of two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. These two halves of the brain are bridged by a thick mass of nerves called the corpus callosum. Used as a therapy for epilepsy, neurosurgeons will sometimes cut the corpus callosum to prevent severe epileptic signals from damaging the hemisphere contralateral to the epileptic focus. The operation apparently does not affect the patient's cognitive abilities. However, a closer examination of the split brain patient reveals an astonishing side effect. If we show the patient a picture of an apple in his right field of vision, he can easily identify it as an apple. However, if he sees the same picture in his left field of vision, he cannot identify it as an apple, even though his sight is completely intact. It is because the language center of the brain is located in the left hemisphere, whereas the left visual field is processed in the right visual center. You already know that we have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of the brain. These two halves of the brain are bridged by the corpus callosum. Oh, what's happening to Toshi now? It seems like he has a stomach ache. The aching sensation from Toshi's stomach is transferred to his thalamus and then passes through his corona radiata, which then delivers the message to the regions of the brain. In neuroanatomy, the corona radiata is a white matter sheet that continues caudally as the internal capsule and rostrally as the centrum semiovale. This sheet of axons contains both ascending and descending axons that carry nearly all of the neural traffic to and from the cerebral cortex. The corona radiata is also associated with the corticospinal tract, the corticopontine tract, and the corticobulbar tract. Since Toshi has gone to the bathroom, we must end our movie now. Using the image reconstruction techniques developed by our lab, we can see the bundles of neuron fibers that are distributed throughout the human brain and learn how they perform their individual functions. We hope that this film has given you some useful insight into the various neuron fibers of the human brain and what their functions are. Thank you for watching.